Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. I'm Gary Polland.
And I'm Dallas Jones.
This week we have a kind of interesting show. We're going to have two parts. First, we're going to have our first guest, Congressman Randy Weber, whose district goes from Beaumont to southern Brazoria County. He's a Republican, so he's one of the good guys, Dallas. And the second half of the show, we're going to have
Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, one of the better guys.
Gals. Who's been on the show as many times as you have so far, Dallas. And we'll be talking to both of them about Congress, what's going on in Congress. The first thing I would mention is the latest polls say the congressional approval rating among the American people is 15%. And I thought that Trump's numbers were troubling, but not so much compared to Congress. So why is it, and of course it's interesting, you've been in office since 2012, you've gotten reelected overwhelmingly each time, so yet the institution is thought of in very low esteem. Individual congressmen like you, Congressman Weber, are thought of in high esteem by the voters. So can you explain what's going on?
Well, sure, Gary. It's because of all of the discord and the fact that Congress is not working together, and there's just so much angst, and there's just not a lot of things getting done. Quite frankly, I've been there, 6 years, 9 months, and 7 or 8 days now.
But who's counting?
But who's counting? And it seemed like every time I've been there that we've never got budget done. We've always passed a CR, and so we have a lot of bickering going back and forth about what the priorities are. The American public's tired of it.
So is there things that could be done to reform Congress so like the Congress would pass budgets on time?
Well, absolutely. Of course, I'm on record having voted for the balanced budget amendment. Of course, you're not going to get enough votes to get the mandatory level to get that out of Congress, but we ought to have a balanced budget just like any family does, just like the state of Texas does. You know, I served 4 years in the Texas legislature before I got demoted to Congress. And we had to have a balanced budget. And so there are things that could be done. Could we get them out? That's the question.
Why is it that the partisanship seems not to be getting better over the years? It seems to be getting worse. And it doesn't matter who's in charge. It doesn't matter who the president is.
No, those things matter, but his question.
Well,
Sure,
in terms of partisanship.
Right. Well, I'm interested first in what he says about who it is that matters and why they matter. But you're absolutely right. They're getting worse. Social media, of course. You're seeing a division in the United States of America. You're seeing two different mindsets. And if I can be really politically incorrect and on topic here, you're seeing a movement right now to unelect a duly elected president by going through impeachment that really there just is not the evidence for. So that's a really dividing line. And as he said, as Dallas said, it does matter who's in the White House, and there's a lot of angst right now. And you're going to see that for a period of time played out.
So I guess during that time, we're not going to get anything else done, right?
Well, unfortunately, you're probably right. I was hoping to get an infrastructure bill done. We've got disaster relief. You probably know that my district, the Gulf Coast of Texas, those 3 coastal counties, which, by the way, is the most contiguous district that I know of. It's not gerrymandered. It's 3 straight counties from Louisiana, Jefferson County, Galveston County, southern half of Brazoria County. We were ground zero for Harvey flooding, and then Imelda hit us really bad. Huge energy. So we want jobs, we want business on track, we want tax reform, we want the government out of our lives, and we want disaster relief. And that's what's important in my district, and that's what I've been working toward.
Congressman, you brought this up, and so I will follow up. In regards to the inquiry around impeachment, you have said that there are no grounds for the inquiry and that essentially it is your belief that it will derail the other work that the U.S. Congress has to do over the next couple of months. I'd like to hear your thoughts more about why do you believe there are no grounds?
Well, a little background on the impeachment process, Dallas. I'm sure you've read the Constitution. It's supposed to start in the House, go through the House of Representatives by a vote, goes over to the Senate, read your Constitution. And it's not just for the president, it's for all elected officials, other elected officials as well. But it goes over to the Senate, and of course it takes 2/3 of the senators present. Doesn't have to be 2/3 of 100, just whoever's present. If you go back and look at history, Andrew Johnson, right after Lincoln, missed the vote to impeach him, fell by 1 vote. You go back to Bill Clinton, that vote failed 55-45. And now along comes Donald Trump, 3rd time. Well, actually, if you went to Nixon, and I had Nixon's old office.
He
did. Well, I think it was August 8th, 1974. But I had Nixon's old office my first 4 years, so we thought we got all the listening bugs out. But Republicans and Democrats alike went to him and said, "Mr. President, we got you. You knew about the Watergate break-in. You're on tape, and we're going to impeach you." And he knew that. So the evidence was there. Now comes this, where you're talking about, you raise a really interesting constitutional dilemma here. Because what's happening, Dallas, is you've got a president who has executive privilege. Indeed, he cannot be forced to give it up. Now, the Supreme Court did so in the Nixon tape discussion. That was good. But instead of a Supreme Court decision, you've got a whistleblower, an anonymous person who is saying that he heard someone, or she, I'm not sure, heard someone else talk about the telephone script, which I have the complete transcribed script right here, and that it was
right there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that it was a quid pro quo.
Good reading.
And it is good reading, and I've read the entire thing. And now you've got a constitutional dilemma, because you've got the hearsay of an anonymous person. Now, if you and I were going to be brought up on charges, we're guaranteed by the Constitution to be able to confront our accuser. But you're saying you're going to go around presidential executive's privilege with an anonymous accuser on hearsay? Something's wrong with that picture.
So, and I would say the short answer from my standpoint is, there may be things that Bill Clinton did that were impeachable, not what he did with Monica. It was wrong, but not impeachable. I believe the Republicans messed up bad. And I will say this, if you noticed after the impeachment process, that President Clinton and Newt Gingrich were able to work together in terms of compromising on major issues facing the country. And actually, that was the last time we had a surplus in our budget.
96,
yes.
It was.
So there was progress made. Now, and I think that at the end of the day, I think that Gingrich and Clinton actually liked each other. I really think that. Mm-hmm. With Trump, I think the people who don't like Trump have a visceral hate for the guy. They really do. And to be frank, as an observer, has observed things a long time. Longer than you, brother.
And the people that don't like Trump believe he has a visceral hate for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I would say that Trump has got issues, okay? His style of leadership is not my cup of tea. I think that, and I don't believe in setting policy by tweets, setting foreign policy by tweets. I mean, look, my biggest concern about Trump is what happened this weekend. He talks to the president of Turkey, and he gives them the green light to invade Syria, and do something about the Kurds, who are our allies against ISIS, who are keeping, 15,000 ISIS terrorists in camps, but now they're going to have to abandon that because they got to go defend themselves against the Turkish invasion that Trump essentially gave a green light to, talking to apparently nobody because it was announced by tweet. And then he gets the feedback that came from your colleagues in the Congress,
absolutely.
Democrats, and I mean, this was like unanimous. This is a bad idea, except for my friend Tucker Carlson, who's an isolationist, who thought it was a good idea. Mm-hmm. And so I'm concerned about how decisions are made.
Well, and you're not the only one saying that, but the president, to your earlier question about why is not anything getting done for all these years, and it predated me. I mean, it didn't just happen when I got there. It was going on for a long time. The American people voted for somebody that they wanted to drain the swamp, to coin a phrase, to use a phrase. They wanted him to shake things up, do things differently, and they like the fact that he comes directly to them with tweets and goes around the media so that it can't get the truth can't be changed.
Are you saying that the media is prejudiced and biased?
Well, if I thought that, I'd label them fake news. So, they've already got that label.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So I guess my question, my follow-up to Gary's comments and his question to you is, does any of this, in terms of the what the polling numbers reflect, are not good approval ratings, right? I get what you said in terms of people disapproving of that's Fino's paradox, right? People disapprove of Congress, but they like their individual congressman for the most part, right? With the approval ratings being this whole, obviously the American people are concerned. Right. Does any of that concern you?
The polls, I don't give a whole lot of credence to, Dallas, and I'll tell you, I'll go back to when Trump was running. When he got the nomination for the Republican nomination for president,
Did you support him?
Yes, sir. And I was saying back then, and I told my staff, some of them who are here today, I told my staff and my bride of almost 43 years, this coming November 6th, I said, he's going to win this. They said, he's going to win this. I said, he will win this, the White House. How can you say that? The polls have Hillary up by 9 percentage points. I said, forget the polls. There's a lot of mad Americans out there that want him to get in there and make a drastic change. He will win this, mark my words.
Do you feel like the country is more unified or divided as a result of that?
Well, I can speak for my district. My district is solidly behind Trump. I can't speak for the rest of the country. You're seeing it, though, in the visceral that we hear in the social media. You're seeing it between Democrats and Republicans, and there's a couple of independents out there as well. And so you're seeing that in the halls of Congress talk about socialism. And that's dividing the country further. I'm 66 years old, 9 months and a few days, and I've never seen so much talk about socialism.
What about nationalism?
Well, being patriotic for your nation is not a bad thing. I don't get where people make that connection. Now, if it's white nationalism or black nationalism or something as opposed to another group, sure. Why don't we just be Americans? Why can't we just be Americans? And then if we get there, just pull together. Let's work together.
Do you socialize with any Democratic members of Congress ever?
I do from time to time. I'm on some different caucuses with them. Sometimes we'll see them out and about.
Because, when you were in the Texas legislature, there was a lot of work across the aisle.
Absolutely.
But in Congress, you can't do that? You're not allowed to do that?
I've thought about that, Gary, and I'll tell you what. Well, I thought
leadership.
about that. Well, that and the ethics rules are different, but I thought about that from a Texas standpoint. 150 members in the Texas House. And when I got in my first session, it was 76 Republicans and 74 Democrats. And so we might stand, and you've been there, at the back mic and the front mic.
Sure.
And I serve with Sylvester Turner, the mayor of Houston. And so you might get there, you might have a lot of heated discussion back and forth over bill, amendment, or whatever the policy might be. But at the end of the day, you can go out at night, you can have a nice steak dinner, you can enjoy some fellowship and stuff. We all work for Texas's betterment. We might have different methodologies, how we think we should get there, but we all had Texas' best interest in mind, truly. Well, now you've got 435 House members that have 50 states. And they've all got many, many varying interests. So
that's the hard thing.
And that's what makes Texas the greatest state in this country.
Well, that's one of the things, Dallas. That's one of the things, Dallas.
Congressman, our time is up. I'm sorry. We could spend probably hours with you.
Sure.
Congressman Randy Weber, thanks so much. You're one of the good ones in Washington. And,
well, thank you.
Hopefully you'll continue as long as your wife lets you.